Beware of the next round of massive amounts of misinformation, because Joe Biden and the ass clowns in DC are pushing new reality-bending propaganda. You see, his presidency has been a roaring success, but ordinary Americans just aren't enlightened enough to really grasp all he's accomplished. Considering we're entering a currency inflation death spiral, violent crime rates are through the roof, the foreign invasion at the southern border grows exponentially, and the FBI continues to hunt half the country as terrorists not deserving of constitutional protections, I'm not sure how many more slow Joe accomplishments we can survive. Or perhaps the real quandary is this: who actually benefits from all these magnificent achievements? Certainly not the American people. You see, most Americans alive today have never been more financially insecure, less safe, or more uncertain about their future. Never have so many Americans or their loved ones been struggling with alcohol and drug addictions. Never have Americans reported feelings of isolation, loneliness, and despondency in such high numbers across all demographics. Never have more Americans agreed that the nation is following a broken moral compass and heading in the wrong direction. After years of enduring psychological abuse from government institutions selling nothing but fear and invasive bureaucratic mandates, parts of the country look as if they've been rattled into a permanent state of PTSD. Too many Americans are stumbling around like the walking wounded, waiting to endure the next round of pain that will surely come their way. So, if not Americans, then who exactly is celebrating this deadly Joe-Bama jubilee? Let's see now. There are the narco-terrorists and sex slave traffickers who have never had an easier time importing murder and misery at the southern border, especially when they can count on the feds assisting in transporting their products across the U.S. at no extra charge. The Chamber of Commerce support for Biden's candidacy over President Donald Trump's re-election has been rewarded with a steady supply of cheap labor from off-the-books illegal aliens. None dare call it slavery. Obviously, the home nations of all the illegal aliens wiring American dollars back to their families are net winners, benefiting from both reduced welfare obligations to their depleted populations and increased flows of taxable remittances. And the Democrats, who perversely measure their personal power according to the scope of government's reach, profit from tens of millions of illegal aliens bloating an already morbidly obese American welfare system of government generosity. Oh, and let's not forget all those once bankrupt blue states and cities that are now flush with COVID and climate change financial windfalls that will, to no one's surprise, fund political insiders and pet projects having nothing to do with either so-called emergency. Certainly non-profit Democrat-aligned interest groups have won the lottery, as their war chests are now overflowing from the direct injection of stimulus dollars set aside for, quote, good causes that serendipitously happen to all be Democrat Party causes too. And both Big Pharma and Big Defense are raking it in big time, especially considering that before the coincidental arrival of the COVID pandemic and NATO's proxy war in Ukraine, our legalized drug dealers were weathering class action lawsuits for their role in addicting millions of Americans to opioids. Oh, and our perpetual war machine was navigating how to wind down 2 decades of conflict in the Middle East and Central Asia while maximizing its bottom line. Defense industry lobbyists cannot afford to win a war too quickly, and pharmaceutical lobbyists can't afford the prospect of actually curing disease. You see, if vaccines worked or trillion-dollar defense budgets defeated enemies, everybody'd be out of a job. But hey folks, there's good news. In Biden's America, there will be plenty of disease and war for all. Oh, and ice cream, of course. Iran remains a big winner, as the Obama-Biden administration's love affair with the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism proves there is no humiliation too grotesque to dissuade the State Department from groveling at the Ayatollah's feet. And of course, Russia wins as its energy resources have become only more valuable in direct correlation to how successful US and European Green New Deal zealots sabotage their own economies with fanciful Solyndra boondoggles. Non-leveraged nations eager to deleverage from United States dollars and dependence upon Western banking systems are certainly benefiting from the Biden regime's no-holds-barred sanctions against Russia, which of course have only predictably precipitated the formation of alternative financial instruments unbeholden to Western fiat and control. And no country has really benefited more from the rise of our lovely Manchurian president than China itself, which has seen tariffs and sanctions dropped and US dependence on Chinese goods increased in return for unleashing a biological weapon upon the world responsible for the loss of millions of lives and the devastation of the global economy, but also providing the World Economic Forum the perfect excuse to initiate its Great Reset agenda, and Dementia Joe the means and opportunity to go along with his motive for using unsecured and anonymous mail-in ballots during the 2020 election. So, who has benefited from Joe Biden's installation as president? Oh, just about everyone, friend or foe, but actual American citizens. Joe's handlers have the corrupt federal government's money laundering operation magically turning American tax dollars into Democrat Party donations, crony capitalist kickbacks, warmongering profits, and power for our foreign enemies. At the very same time, his national security deep state has declared war on parents, Trump supporters, the religiously devout, and the traditional defenders of liberty. It may actually be difficult to know just where the White House's allegiances lie, but it's pretty easy to see that they do not lie with the people of the United States. Yet, despite all this chaos and carnage, the Democrats still expect their loyal followers to keep voting for more heartache and suffering. But if you think about it, why wouldn't they? If you are psychologically predisposed to defer to the powers of authoritarians, then you are the bread and butter of Build Back Better Bolshevism. Big government thrives with those who not only obey, but demand that others obey as well. It's so much easier if packs of wild, screeching Karens enforce mask mandates and social distancing rules without requiring official jackbooted enforcers to roam airports, streets, and stores in search of free-thinking citizens. If you are 30 or younger, then you have never heard your government tell you to be anything other than afraid. We have nothing to fear, but fear itself is just some lost relic from the past. Whatever the perceived problem these last 3 decades, changing climate, war, HIV, bird flu, swine flu, terrorism, religious extremism, COVID, world famine, never once has the permanent ruling class running Washington, D.C. into the ground decided that the appropriate message to broadcast to the country should be an encouraging, "Don't worry, America, we've got this." It's always the exact opposite. Be very afraid about everything. The propagandists might talk about hope as if they have it stored in a giant crate out back. But without a doubt, every tin drum labeled hope is just another off-brand version of mass fear. And in return for gobbling up the government's free helpings of fear, Americans have been rewarded with a broken financial system, crumbling institutions, and a rotting culture, so putrid that even questioning the state's need to sexualize children is regarded as strangely controversial. Joe Biden and the Democrats can't win the midterms with that kind of honesty. They can't possibly admit that everything they've touched these last 18 months has ended in disaster for ordinary voters. So another round of national brainwashing it is. So remember, Soylent Green is yummy. Joe Biden won 81 million votes, and right now Americans have never had it so good. Spread the wonderful news, comrades. Big Brother is awake and always watching. Most of this came by way of The American Thinker, written by J.B. Shirk. If you liked it, hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Leave a comment down below. There's a PayPal link in the description box, so please put $1 in the bucket on the way out the door. I'd like to thank everyone for all your donations. They're much needed and much appreciated. Now, with all that being said, we'll see you next time.
Come on, move. Move. Easy, easy.